are some love stories that unfold beneath the spotlight. And then, there are the ones that exist almost entirely away from it. For nearly 3 decades, Robert Redford and Sibylle Szaggars built a relationship that was remarkably different from the Hollywood romances the public was used to seeing. When Redford died on September 16, 2025, at the age of 89, the world mourned the loss of an extraordinary actor, director, and champion of independent cinema. But behind the tributes, the headlines, and the memories of one of Hollywood's greatest stars was a woman who had shared the final decades of his life. Her name was Sibylle Szaggars, a German-born multimedia artist and environmental advocate. Szaggars was never simply Robert Redford's wife. She had built an artistic identity of her own, creating work inspired by nature, the environment, and humanity's connection to the earth. The U.S. Department of State describes her as a multimedia environmental artist whose work seeks to raise awareness about environmental issues. And perhaps what makes their relationship so fascinating is how little it depended on Hollywood glamour. The two met in 1996 at Redford's Sundance Mountain Resort in Utah. At the time, Szaggars knew that Redford was an actor, but she was hardly overwhelmed by his fame. In fact, she later recalled that she had not seen many of his films. That unusual beginning reportedly appealed to Redford. Their relationship developed away from the constant pressure of celebrity culture, and after more than a decade together, they married in a private ceremony in Hamburg, Germany in 2009. Only a small group of family members and friends attended. Their connection was built around more than romance. They shared a deep commitment to environmental causes and the arts. In 2015, Szaggars founded The Way of the Rain, an organization using artistic performances and education to raise awareness about protecting the planet. Redford served as its vice president, bringing together two passions that had defined much of his later life: storytelling and environmental activism. For Redford, this partnership represented something different from the Hollywood world that had made him famous. He once described Szaggars as a very special person who had brought a whole new life to him. And that may be the most revealing part of their story. Because while millions knew Robert Redford, the movie star, Sibylle knew the man behind the image. The man who loved the mountains of Utah, the man who believed independent filmmakers deserved a place to be heard. The man who spent decades using his influence to advocate for the environment, and ultimately, the man who chose a quieter life away from the machinery of celebrity. When Redford died at his Sundance home, his representative said he was surrounded by those he loved, and that the family requested privacy. That request says something important about the life Redford and Szaggars had built together. Their relationship was never designed for public consumption. There was no need to constantly prove it. No endless headlines. New spectacle. Just years shared between two people whose interests increasingly converged around art, nature, creativity, and the protection of the world they cared about. Today, Robert Redford's cinematic legacy is enormous. From Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and the Sting to All the President's Men and Ordinary People, he left an unmistakable mark on American cinema. But perhaps his most enduring contribution came beyond the screen. Through Sundance, he helped transform the landscape of independent filmmaking, giving countless artists an opportunity to tell stories outside the traditional Hollywood system. And beside him, during the later chapters of that extraordinary life, was Sibylle. She was not simply standing beside a legend. She was building a life with him. A quieter life, a more private life, a life where fame mattered less than purpose. And now, after Robert Redford's passing, that quiet partnership becomes part of the story the world remembers. Not just a Hollywood romance, but a decades-long connection shaped by art, nature, privacy, and shared values. Robert Redford may have belonged to the world, but Sibylle Szaggars knew the man who lived beyond the screen. And perhaps that is the most beautiful part of their story.